We can go ahead and get started, man.
Yeah,
I like to
man.
start out with praying, though, if that's cool.
For sure.
All right.
Let's go.
Father God, thank you for allowing us to come in this space at this very moment, Lord. Lord, I ask you to take our words and our thoughts and our opinions, Lord, and let them become seeds so they can benefit your kingdom and uplift your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. All right. Welcome to another episode of 283 the podcast, where we connect, reflect, and evolve with HBCU grads over 40. And today we got a special guest. I'm talking about a South Carolina State alum, a photographer, an entrepreneur, a true advocate for mental health, a father. We got no other than not your average therapist, Mr. Damian Harmon. What's good, my guy?
What's good with you, man?
That's what's up, man. What's up?
Yeah.
What's up? So, what is the not your average therapist mentality, bro?
Yeah, it started way back when I first became a therapist. Actually, before that, I didn't really see people who looked like me in this space. Black, African-American males, serving the community in this capacity as far as mental health. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be myself. I didn't want to look like Mr. Rogers, in the office space with the sweaters and the whole nine. I wanted to just show up being authentically me. So in that space, it makes it's not normal,
Gotcha.
right? So when people walk into my office, they see this is normally how I dress. You know what I'm saying? Jeans, joggers. I have on my Timbs. I'll put on some J's, whatever the case may be. I'm tatted up. So it's like, are you really a therapist?
So truly not your average therapist.
Absolutely.
I got you. You grew up in Orangeburg, South Carolina, correct?
Yes, sir.
So out of the two HBCUs in Orangeburg, you got that other college and then you got the South Carolina State.
Absolutely.
Why you chose South Carolina State, bro?
Man, I think it was in my blood, really. My family is from that area, South Carolina area, Orangeburg, Charleston, and everywhere in between, St. Matthews. So I have a lot of family that went to South Carolina State, that graduated from South Carolina State, and being around the culture, growing up as a youngster in Orangeburg, going to the football games, basketball games, experiencing homecoming, it was totally different. It was, it's Orangeburg, but once you step on campus, it just felt like a totally different vibe, and I wanted to experience that.
So it's kind of safe to say if you grew up in Orangeburg, you was kind of raised to go to a HBCU.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think South Carolina State and the other college, we're not going to mention that, they pressed, not necessarily pressed, but they stressed emphasis in our community as far as showing up, coming to our high schools, and recruiting, but also allowing us to see that college life.
Gotcha.
And, in Orangeburg, it's not a whole lot to do there except go to school.
And eat.
Eat really good.
You go eat real good, right?
So it put me in a space of like, yeah, this is home, and then, just wanting to continue to be around my family and my friends, and a lot of us, that graduated, high school, still went to South Carolina State.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Can you share what inspired you to pursue a career as a mental health therapist, and how did your experience at South Carolina State shape that journey?
Wow, good question. Again, just growing up in Orangeburg, experiencing what I've experienced as far as just from a socioeconomic standpoint, but also from a cultural standpoint, and trying to understand why we do what we do, why we think the way we think. And, while I was at South Carolina State, I actually worked for the Department of Social Services out in Calhoun County, where I work with at-risk youth. And being a peer mentor, me not even being a full-fledged adult, but still working with adolescents and teens on just behavior modification and, showing up and being that person that I would want to see when I was younger. You know what I mean? Like, so it kind of took me in a space to where I wanted to continue to give. And then once I graduated from South Carolina State, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was the same issue. The kids were considered bad kids and things like that with behavioral issues. And I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the psychology of how we think. And so I went back and got my master's, and then, 15 years later, I'm here.
Got you. So, not your average therapist, a male black therapist, something that we don't regularly see. What are some of the challenges you've encountered advocating for mental health, like I kind of see you doing on social media and things like that?
Barriers have actually started to dwindle, but initially, and coming from a cultural standpoint, black men in general, we were taught not to show emotions. We were not supposed to fear anything but God. If you cried or if you were hurt, you're not supposed to show that emotion. So being able to get into the space of mental health and psychology and breaking down those stigmas associated with mental health, whether that being, promoting and advocating what therapy looks like, because a lot of us have a picture of what it looks like to come to therapy. You come into an office and you lay across a chair and you're talking about your childhood, and just thinking back, but it's much more than that. And I wanted to bring a different emphasis and a different perspective on what mental health is.
So you said something that sparked my interest. So therapy is not coming in and laying on a chair and just talking. What would a first session with you look like for someone that's never been through any type of therapy?
Right. For me, rapport is number one priority.
Okay.
Because a lot, if not all people that come see me, they've either seen me on social media or news or whatever the case may be, so they know of me, so that may have piqued the interest, but at the same time, I'm still a stranger to them. So when it comes to mental health and therapy, you have to be able to be transparent and vulnerable, and a lot of people come in with the wall up. So that first session is really me getting to know you. You also getting to know me, asking me questions about where I'm from, and just different things in my theoretical approach when it comes to therapy. So really, those first few sessions are really just rapport building, getting to know my client to where they're comfortable enough to open up and share.
Okay, so let's say I think I need therapy, right? And I start Googling black male therapists. What are some of the qualities and the characteristics or certification experience should I look for in a therapist?
Yeah, that's really a good question, because just like with any relationship, like you want to do your due diligence on that person, right? It doesn't matter if you're dating, if you're looking at a potential employer, you're going to do your research. So first and foremost, you have to understand what your concern is, what you want to see happen, what you want to be resolved as far as problems or concerns that you're coming to therapy with. So if you're dealing with depression, you might want to find someone that specializes in depression or anxiety, or if you're having relationship issues, I work with couples as well. So someone that specializes in that, or severe mental health issues like bipolar or schizophrenia, or just work-related stress. So really filtering out the ones that you want, and we have a lot of different platforms nowadays to where you can actually filter if you want a female, if you want a male, if you want a white person, if you want a black person, and what their specialties are.
So there's platforms that kind of break it down and make it a whole lot easier for that first-time person seeking treatment.
Yes. One of those platforms is Psychology Today. I've been on that platform for years. But yeah, if you have any types of issues, substance abuse, whatever the case may be, there's a therapist that specializes specifically in that particular area.
Got you. You kind of started spitting out some of the diagnoses, the DSM-4 or 5, right? Have you seen the movie Straw?
I have.
So I think Tyler Perry, shout out to Tyler Perry, did a great job with that movie. One of the things that stood out to me in that movie was how her community, her neighbors, her, I guess, co-workers kind of ignored her mental health issues. So I guess my question is what are some of the signs or symptoms that may prompt me or should prompt my loved ones to say, hey, you know what, he's going through something, you might want to seek treatment.
Right.
Because I feel like in Straw, the community kind of let her down a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and sometimes it's difficult to see because we're taught what goes on in this house, we keep it in the house. You know what I mean? Like, so as far as if I'm stressed out, I still may show up at work with a smile on my face and helping everyone else, but when I go home, I'm breaking down. So sometimes some of those signs may show up as lack of sleep, or you're sleeping too much. You know, you can have two extremes of of each other. Or if you notice it's been a significant weight loss, significant weight gain, erratic speaking, irritability is a really huge signifier, because especially in our culture, everything else is kind of stigmatized as far as me telling you, hey, I need some help, or I'm sad. But one emotion that's normally shown and we don't really pay a whole lot of attention is irritability and anger, frustration. You know, because that can show up in the workplace. You'd be like, you know what, I'm tired of these people.
Just stress. I'm dealing with work.
I'm dealing with a lot of stuff.
It's part of life. Life be life, and right?
Exactly.
Those are some of the quotes that we kind of shadow what's really going on there. Okay.
Yeah. So those are some of the small things, and then when you notice that the person may have been outgoing, and now they've become more isolative. In a sense, they're not doing the things that they used to do. They're not being as sociable. They're not hanging out as much. They're not, coming as a collective to functions, family functions, social gatherings, things like that, for an extended period of time.
So what advice would you give that loved one, or someone special in that person's life, when they noticing those signs and symptoms? What advice would you give them? What should that conversation look like first?
Right, and that's usually one of those questions that I get a lot. But what I've recognized is that it's important that we first ask the person, how can I best support you right now in this moment? Rather than saying, oh, I think you got a problem, or I think you need to go see somebody, because that's going to push them away from actually seeking treatment. The more you try to push them towards treatment. So in essence, being able to be transparent and being vulnerable and role modeling that in a certain way, being able to say, you know what, like sometimes I get stressed, sometimes I get down, and these are the ways that I've been able to handle it. What are some things that you're doing, or what can I do to assist, because I see certain things. What can I do to best support you in this moment? Sometimes it's just a listening ear. Sometimes it's actually physically doing something. Sometimes it's actually checking in on that person and making it a regular thing, being intentional about checking in on that strong friend that's always on the go. It doesn't have to necessarily be when they're crashing out. We just have to be intentional about making that a regular thing, so we're able to be mindful of when we notice those changes and those shifts in their behavior.
So just really paying attention to your homie.
Yeah.
Paying attention to your friend, like just being a true friend.
Absolutely.
So everything we looking for in a friend, we have to be able to reciprocate that and be like, okay, I got you, bro. Like, I noticed you losing a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So what's up? What's going on? And that person have to be kind of open-minded and have a relationship rapport to be able to accept that conversation and start that conversation.
Yes.
All right, question. Do therapists see therapists?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's I always tell clients, I tell people in general, if your therapist doesn't have a therapist, run. Because,
why do you say that?
Because we're human too, and dealing with other people's issues you may encounter some transference, right? So if you're dealing with episodes of depression, or you may have had some trauma in your past, or talking with someone with similar traumas is going to re-trigger yours. And so sometimes being able to create a healthy self-care balance, work-life balance, is needed for a therapist. If anything, we need it more than the people that we're serving when it comes to making sure that our mental is on point to help others.
So we got to make sure you guys are healthy to be able to be helpful to us.
Yes, absolutely.
Got you.
Absolutely.
So you said a key word, a buzzword, kind of sort of trauma. What is the biggest trauma that you see African American men facing right now?
Oh man,
that's a huge question. I know, right?
Huge question. What I see a lot is grief loss, especially with us, and not necessarily always in the sense of someone dying, But it could be a loss of a relationship, loss of livelihood, loss of respect, loss of freedom, loss of expectations that you may have had for yourself. Sometimes when we're going through those quote unquote midlife crises, we kind of reflect and say, okay, at 20, we was at South Carolina State, we had this plan for our life. And at 45, it doesn't necessarily look like I want it to look. So that loss of that fantasy that we had in our mind versus the reality often triggers a lot of different emotions. And that can be traumatic for some people. It doesn't always have to be, seeing somebody die right in front of you or being in an accident or something traumatic on that particular level, but it could be a loss of divorce, whatever the case may be. A lot of these things trigger, maladaptive behaviors. You may start drinking a little bit more. You may start smoking a little bit more. You may say F it and, start engaging in risky behaviors that we normally wouldn't do. That's detrimental to ourselves.
And some of those risky behaviors, what are the most prevalent risky behaviors in the African American culture? Because I know growing up, dealing with mental health in my communities, kind of seeing it at South Carolina State and other cities I lived in, it always seemed like the African American male, I'm gonna just say people, African Americans, they smoke weed.
Yeah.
And when you ask why you smoke, it's almost like, okay, they give you an excuse, but it's really self-medicating.
It is.
Is that normal?
We attempted to make it normal. The way the mind works, when you're not in a good space emotionally, your body responds in the sense of like, I need to find something to alleviate this pressure, this negative pressure, these negative emotions. I need to do something. So in that instance of smoking weed, you often hear, man, I'm going through a lot. I'm stressed. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to be calm. It calms me down. So my follow-up question is, well, why aren't you calm in your normal state? And so that opens up a whole nother can of worms. I got this, I got kids, I got work pressures, I got community obligations, I got all of these things, and I'm trying to show up for everyone. I want to make sure that everybody else is good, meanwhile I'm struggling.
So is it, as a therapist, is one of the things you guys do is kind of triage all the issues that may be going on in that person's life and kind of prioritize what to address and what to talk about first?
It truly just depends. Some people come in for a specific issue, and then it may open up that can of worms of being able to go back. So we're talking about trauma. You may have one particular traumatic event, but then that opens up a whole nother can of how you dealt with trauma growing up. And sometimes we don't even realize that it's trauma that we experienced until it's like, man, like it's always been like this. You know what I mean? Like I often put examples of like growing up in Orangeburg. I'm used to hearing gunshots at night, right? Just out of nowhere. A normal person would duck, jump, be startled. Meanwhile, I'm just like, why are you on the floor? Like, it's just a gunshot. Like, it happens all the time. That is your mind and your body self-regulating, saying that now, like, you're not in a state to where you need to be on edge.
So sometimes our environment and just how we live every single day, we start to normalize crisis. And we seek other risky behaviors, drinking, smoking, sexual relationships, whatever it may be that kind of gives us that out simply because of our environment.
Yeah.
Huge. So how would you address someone where they're not able to change their environment?
If you can't change your environment, then you change your environment, right? From a holistic standpoint, if you can't go out here and be the role model, the advocate, and change everybody else's perception, which most of us can't do that, then you change how the environment impacts you. You change your perspective or your thought process. I often say, like, you can be peace within a storm, right? In the eye of a storm, you can be that peaceful person. You can be that change that you would like to see in your environment,
Gotcha.
right? Because you have no control over what other people do, how they interact, how society works. We have no power, no control whatsoever. So the only thing that you can really control is you, how you think, how you feel, how you respond to situations.
Okay. So let's jump back to stigma. I've heard all types of stigma, man. Like, mental health ain't real. Like you said, whatever happens in this house stays in this house. Let's just pray about it. He or she'll be okay. How do our community, specifically the HBCU community, the professionals, the church leaders, the doctors, lawyers that may be listening, how do they assist in changing that stigma?
Wow, I look at it from a holistic standpoint. You raised, different professions, whether that be physicians, whether that be teachers, whether that be administrators, whether that be just people out in the community. The way we look at physical health, right, it is very important, right? We get our checkups at least once a year. When we're feeling ill, when we're not feeling well, we go to the doctor to get it checked out. That same level of importance from our physical, we need to look at it from a mental standpoint. So I'm a huge advocate of, if you're not in therapy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go all the time, right? But getting that emotional check-in, that mental health checkup to say, okay, this year has been trying. This first 6 months of this year, just dealing with the election and how, the economy is, all these different things. How am I managing? How am I really feeling when it comes to a day-to-day? And getting those check-ins and making it to where it's okay to be vulnerable, be transparent with those trusted individuals. Creating that support system, whether it be formal or informal, of people that like we was talking about before, that's able to pour into you and you pouring into them.
Got you.
So therapy and mental health in itself is not always about therapy. It's about how can you collectively come together, because when we were growing up, we didn't have that. But we had family, we had support, we had a community, we had cousins down the street and aunts right next door. We had neighbors that'll just come by and just check on you. Hey, I ain't seen you in a couple of days. You okay? We don't have that same type of culture.
So that village
yeah,
disappeared, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So creating that village, will help. So that village could be your primary care physician. That could be your church, right? Because we try to separate mental health and church, and it's always been this unspoken battle between mental health and religion, right? We often say, well, God handled it, pray, do all those things. Well, why not do both?
So what would you tell that faith leader, that preacher, that pastor, that bishop? What would you say, hey, try this, relate this message to your congregation regarding mental health this particular month, Men's Mental Health Week? What would you say to that faith leader?
And I've said, in the past, I've actually had meetings and seminars with church leaders, bishops, pastors, all those things. And I'm grateful to say that they're more open-minded, right? God puts people in your life, whether that be a doctor or a therapist that has the expertise to give you information. So speaking to religious leaders, and a lot of them struggle, believe it or not, with anxiety, with depression. There's been a rising number of pastoral officials dying by suicide.
And why do you think they're taking on so much emotions and feelings, just like that connection with people in their congregation, like they feeling obligated to lead them down the right path, and if they're not going the right way, they just kind of take it on themselves.
Yeah, it's
I guess I never thought about that.
Yeah, and because when we look at someone like a pastor, we look at a leader of a flock, and trying to portray this person that's bigger than life, and they're human as well. So if you got 500 members and you're getting a call from a member every day, multiple members, and they got issues and all these different things, who's checking on that pastor?
Got you.
It can't always be God. God is good, and for him to pray and all those different things, but who's actually saying, Pastor, you okay?
So y'all check on your pastor, man.
Please do.
Check on your pastor.
Please do.
So we talked about trauma, and me and you actually met before college. You recall how we met?
Yeah, I remember, man. Seems like it was yesterday, but yeah.
So we met in a space where it was Kids Chance, right?
Yes.
I think we received a scholarship due to losing a loved one. That loved one for me was my father. I lost my father when I was 14. He was a cop.
Wow.
I got killed in the line of duty. So that's what led me. Shout out to Kids Chance for paying for my college
absolutely.
education.
Two African males got their degree because of y'all.
All right, so what was that trauma, and have you dealt with that trauma? Because oftentimes I still find myself wondering and thinking years later about what would life look like if my father was there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And my condolences for sure with your loss of your father. I got the opportunity to be a recipient of that scholarship because my dad got hurt on the job.
Oh.
So he got injured, his foot, couldn't work anymore after that. So from an economic standpoint, that influenced the household greatly. And so they were able to step in and provide, subsidies and scholarships for me to attend school outside of, other scholarships that I did have, but they were kind of like a priority for me. And, for me, that was traumatic. Doing my own work, becoming a therapist and having to do that work, being able to say, hey, that was a traumatic time for my family because, most times parents not going to tell you, hey, we're struggling with bills and X, Y, Z and all these different things, but you can feel the tension. And my dad was always the person that worked.
Got you.
He was the grinder, second shift, third shift, whatever shift he worked, at a factory in Orangeburg. So, and my mom was already disabled. So it made it really difficult to say, hey, I need this, I want to go to school, but how am I going to pay for it?
Got you.
You know what I mean? So Kids Chance provided that opportunity due to that, and I'm always thankful.
So do you feel like for our listeners, we cater to 30, 40 HBCU at grads, but just the average listener, someone that may have a 18, 19-year-old, does finances, or the lack of finances, kind of maybe considered trauma?
Yeah, because it's traumatic, although we normalize it, right? Like we'll make jokes about, hey, like we grew up on ramen noodles or cheese toast, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, wish sandwiches. You just put some mayonnaise on that joint and wish that you had some meat. Right. Yeah. So we kind of made it a thing to where it's like the struggle was a badge of honor for us, and that's a historical thing, right? Coming up from slavery to Jim Crow, all these things, struggle was our badge in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like the more struggle you had, the more black you was.
It's that boots on the ground. Like we gotta have our boots on the ground.
Yeah.
We gotta get it from the mud.
Gotta get it out the mud.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we gotta shift that mindset because that it affects you because when you don't get to those particular points, how does that affect you, especially as a man? How does that affect your ego when you're like, man, I've been having my head down, boots on the ground the whole nine, and I'm still struggling?
Can mental health issues cause physical health issues?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like what did that look like?
Just look at the number one killers, the silent killer. Heart attacks. It's not always the obese person, that has heart issues or genetic issues that's causing these things to happen. It's not because we're always eating fried chicken, that it causes us to have heart issues and circulatory issues like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, things like that. It actually starts in the mind. You gotta think, when you're stressed, When you're worried about something, what's the first thing that happens? Your heart starts racing. Your hands, palms get sweaty, you start to shake a little bit. So there are physiological responses from your mind telling your body, hey, you need to do this because you're in this type of situation. And then eventually it becomes a disorder.
Gotcha.
Right? So if you're not getting that blood flowing through your body right, then it starts to affect you.
In some type of way, right? It's going to come out some type of way.
It throws off your sugar
High blood
levels.
pressure, all of that. Okay. All right. So what legacy or what footprint do Damian Harmon, not your average therapist, want to leave on the mental health industry?
Man, you coming up with some good questions.
It's that bulldog.
But I always tell people, and I often speak, in environments where mental health is kind of like the topic. And I always reference Orangeburg. I always say, I'm just a kid from a small town in South Carolina. And the imprint that I would like to leave is, in regards to mental health, is that we have to be okay with being transparent and vulnerable. Our vulnerability is our strength. It's not you being weak. It's a total opposite. We often get that, because I'm opening up, because I'm, communicating how I'm feeling, especially for a man, that's considered weak. What's weak is you holding it all together and thinking that no one else can help you.
Gotcha.
We're actually Clark Kent. We're not Superman. Superman was Superman pretending to be Clark Kent, right?
We're Clark Kent.
We're Clark Kent.
Say it again for the people.
we're Clark Kent. We're pretending to be Superman. We're not Superman pretending to be Clark Kent.
Got you. Interesting. I like that. I like how you said that.
Yeah.
So I know, when you're dealing with, I know me, when I'm dealing with having a stressful week or a stressful month, work, personal, whatever it may be, I'm a huge fan in self-care. I love mini trips and things like that. How important is self-care?
That's vital. That's the number one thing. That's the first thing that I ask people. What are you doing for yourself? When it comes to our sessions, what have you done for yourself today? It don't have to be a grand gesture of taking a vacation or, like going on a shopping spree. It could be something as simple as I'm going out on my back porch and just sun gazing,
Gotcha.
people watching. Watching your favorite movie, whatever it is, that thing that does it for you.
Do it.
Right? Do it. Be intentional about those things. Whether that's working out, whether that's going for a walk. Self-care can look, and so it has so many faces to it, but it's very important. And when you don't do it, your body kind of tells you that you need to go sit down for a minute.
All right. So for that high school graduate that's considering what's the next step in their life, and they're looking at different colleges and universities across the country, why should they choose one of those 99 HBCUs?
Man, it's a culture. It's totally something that you will not get at a PWI. It's all family. Even though what Tupac say, we might fight amongst each other, you know what I'm saying? But when we collectively come together, like we put out talent.
We do.
You know what I mean? Like from professional athletes to politicians to huge administrators, superintendents, whatever the case may be. Every HBCU that I know of, that I've been around, put out talent, and we birth those types of individuals. That's rich in history, that's rich in family, and giving back to the community. Sometimes you might get lost at a PWI because it's 20,000.
You're a number.
Yeah, you're just a number. But when you come to a school like South Carolina State, it's a family environment. People know you by your name when you pop up in there. I don't know how many times I've been in financial aid office or Belcher Hall or something like that, to where all the teachers know you.
They know you. see you at Walmart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
that matters, right?
It definitely does. And I don't know if it's because we from small towns and
Yeah.
we're used to that small town feel, but South Carolina State gives that. A lot of HBCUs give that, and I've been to plenty, over my years as far as just visiting or doing things like this, mental health speeches and things like that. It's a family environment.
Got you. One super important question I want to ask is, since you're from Orangeburg, Biddy Banquet, Duke's Barbecue, or House of Pizza, or the Chinese restaurant with the pink wings?
Oh, good. You gonna make me choose?
Yeah, you gotta choose one.
Oh God. I'm gonna go with the spot that I normally go to when I visit, and it's not even Duke's. It's Antley's.
Antley's, okay.
We still got Duke's.
We still got okay. We still
Antley's.
go to Antley's though.
Yeah.
It's on the other side of town.
Yeah. So I always get me a barbecue plate when I touch down. I'm not a huge, pork eater anymore, but I promise you, when I come to Orangeburg, I gotta get my hash and rice and chopped barbecue with the extra sauce.
And for me, man, it's Biddy Banquet. It's nothing like that fried chicken, bro.
It was hard. You made it hard, man.
Yeah.
You made it hard. I grew up on all of those restaurants, and I'm glad that they're still around because there's a lot of those restaurants are no longer here. But those are some staples. In the community, man. Like,
love it.
Yeah.
All right, how do the people get in contact with you, man?